Hi everyone, welcome again to our next session of Winter Wonders. This is our first week of the second session. I'm Miss Wendy, and today our stories and songs, well not songs, but our stories and activities are all about polar bears. So in your bag, if you haven't already opened it, you'll have a scarf and you should have an egg shaker from last time. Otherwise, I would have put a new one in if you were new to our story times. So go ahead and get out your scarf and we're going to put our scarf song on. All right, let's see. Let me get our song all set up and we can begin. Got your scarf and we'll get going. Oops. Of course, there's a little technical difficulty. Let's see if it's going to play. Hello.
Shake your scarves.
There, sorry for that. Just had to wait a little bit. Scarves up, scarves down. Shake your scarves all around. Scarves up, scarves down. Shake your scarves all around. Scarves in, scarves out. Shake your scarves all about. Scarves in, scarves out. Shake your scarves all about. Right knee, can you find your knee and cross it over? Knee. Shake your scarves fancy free. Right knee, left knee. Shake your scarves fancy free. Right hand, crossing over. Left hand, shake your scarves with the band. Right hand, left hand, shake your scarves with the band. On your back, on your tummy, shake your scarves nice and funny. On your back, on your tummy, shake your scarves nice and funny. Scarves up, scarves down. Put your scarves on the ground. Get ready to clap. Excellent. And we got our blood pumping a little bit. So our first story today, and you will need your scarf later on, so don't get rid of it. Our first story today is Cold Paws, Warm Heart by Madeline Floyd. Let's see what this polar bear gets up to. Are you comfy? Far away in the land of snow and ice lived a large polar bear who was always cold and all alone. His name was Cold Paws. Kind of cold out today, isn't it? Time passed slowly for Cold Paws. The only thing that kept him company was a silver flute, which he played each day to forget his troubles. In the land of snow and ice, there also lived a little girl named Hannah. The people in her village said that no one lived across the snowy plains except Cold Paws, a bear so huge and so cold that if you touched him, you would turn to ice. But one day, as Hannah was walking through the forest, she heard some beautiful music. She felt as if the gentle notes were stroking her ears. That night, as she closed her eyes, all Hannah could think of was the beautiful music. She knew she would have to follow it. The next day, Hannah took the same path through the woods. Again, she heard the magical music drawing her closer. It led her out of the great forest, across the snowy plains, and right up to a large iceberg. Hannah crept toward the iceberg and peered around the corner. Right there in front of her was a huge polar bear with a soft, gentle smile. He was playing a silver flute. Hannah could not believe her eyes. She crouched down out of sight and listened until the air fell silent around her. The polar bear shivered. His whole body shook, and the snow beneath Hannah's boots trembled. Hannah knew how miserable it was to feel very cold, so without thinking, she took off her scarf, stepped forward, and placed it right in front of the big polar bear. Hannah held her breath. Very slowly, the polar bear picked up the red woolly scarf and tied it under his big furry chin. He nodded his large, heavy head. Hannah smiled. That night, as the stars lit up the sky, Cold Paws thought how lonely his life had become. He pulled the red scarf closer around his neck, but he still felt cold inside. He shivered. Back in the village on the other side of the forest, Hannah lay in her warm bed and thought about the cold polar bear. The next day, Hannah ran back through the forest, across the snowy plains and up to the iceberg. I have an idea. Let's do some jumping jacks to warm you up. Cold Paws looked confused and rubbed his ears. Something about the little girl made him feel better, so he lifted his heavy legs and did his best to jump up and down. Hannah laughed, and Cold Paws smiled. I have another idea, said Hannah, and she ran off toward the village. As Cold Paws waited for Hannah to return, the sunlight faded and the snow fell steadily through the silence. He blew on his polar bear paws. Cold Paws had never had such a special day, but he still felt a little cold inside. Ugh, he shivered. When Hannah came back, she held out a steaming mug of hot chocolate. This is for you, she said. Cold Paws took the mug in his soft paws and smelled the sweet drink. He took a large gulp and licked the chocolate off his toes. He had never tasted anything so delicious, and now he felt only a little bit cold inside. I have to go home now, said Hannah. I don't know how to warm you up, but I'll be back to play with you every day. Hannah gave Cold Paws a very big hug, and as she did so, a wonderful thing happened. The cold feeling inside Cold Paws disappeared, and instead he felt a warm glow all over. Now that he had a friend, Cold Paws didn't feel cold anymore. So glad I got to share that story with you about love and friendship and what it can mean to have a special friend. Okay, are you ready for your egg shaker song? So get your egg shaker. If you need to find it, go ahead, pause the video, and then come back and turn it on. Now remember, if you live in an apartment or a condo or have anybody living downstairs, when it gets to the point of stamp your feet on the floor, don't stamp too loudly because we don't want people to get upset. All right, let me change over our CD, and that gives you a chance to go get your egg shaker if you don't have it already. Let's see, get that in there, close it up. Hopefully it won't give us as much trouble as the last time. Let's see. Okay, let's go.
Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's shake them all day long. Now let's all stomp our feet. Let's all stomp our feet. Let's all stomp our feet. Let's stomp them all day long. Now let's all jump up and down, and let's all jump up and down. Let's all jump up and down all day long. Shake your shakers up high, shake your shakers down low, shake your shakers real fast, shake your shakers real slow, shake your shakers real loud, shake your shakers real low. Just shake them all day long. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's shake them all day long. Now let's all jump our feet. Let's all stomp our feet. Let's all stomp our feet. bodies. Let's dance them all day long. Now let's all jump up and down. Let's all jump up and down. Let's all jump up and down all day long. Shakers up high, shakers down low. Shakers real fast. Shakers real slow. Shakers real loud. Shakers real low. Just shake them all day long. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's all shake our shaker eggs. Let's shake them all day long. Now let's all shake our bodies. Let's all shake our bodies. Let's all shake our bodies. Let's shake them all day long. Let's shake them all day long. Let's shake them all day long. Woo! Yeah.
Very good. Oops, let me turn that back on. I'm just going to flip out our CDs now while I'm thinking of it, because we'll need your scarf at the end of our story time again. Okay. So continuing with our stories, we have Because I Love You So Much by Guido van Genechen. Got a polar bear and his mommy. Snowy was a very smart bear. He knew where to find the best fish, and he knew how to catch them. Some nice ice fishing going on. He knew how to catch the biggest snowflakes, and he knew how to catch the best tasting ones too. Do you ever put your tongue out and catch a snowflake? Had a lot of opportunity to do that recently. Excuse me. Snowy knew how cold the wind could be, and he knew which way it blew. A little tickle. He knew how to climb up an iceberg and how to slide down one too. Excuse me. Snowy knew how strong or weak the ice could be, and he knew that when it cracked, it separated him from Mommy. He knew that the sun only shone during the day and that the moon only came out at night. Snowy knew all these things and more, but there were some things that he didn't understand. Where does snow come from, Mommy? Well, you see, Snowy, Mommy began, very far from here, the sun warms up the sea. Millions of water drops float up from the sea and gather together to become a cloud. Then the wind blows that cloud all the way over here. Because it's so cold here, the cloud begins to shiver, and when the cloud shakes, it snows. My goodness. But why is the snow pure white when the sea is so blue? That was a harder question, and Mommy wasn't sure of the answer. She said. Snow is always white, just like polar bears are always white. And why are polar bears always white, Snowy asked. Because white is the prettiest, sweetest, most beautiful color for polar bears, Mommy said proudly. Snowy thought about this for a moment. If I were yellow, Snowy asked, would you still think I was pretty and sweet? Of course, Mommy said. And if I were red or green or blue all over, would you still think I was beautiful and bright? Sure I would, Mommy said. But why, Snowy asked. Because I love you so much, said Mommy. And that was something Snowy already knew. So you may not know, though polar bears have white fur, it's because they need to camouflage. That means blend in with their environment or surroundings. Their coat or fur is so well camouflaged, it can sometimes look like snow. But did you know that the polar bear's white fur is not white? Their skin is actually black, and their hair is made up of little hairs that their fur is made up of little hairs that are hollow. And there's particles in between the hairs that makes their fur, it works with the light from the sun, and it makes their fur look white. So that's just an interesting little fact for you. Okay, so in your bag this week, you also have, so it looks like snow on paper, our big snowdrift here, iceberg. And you have some colorful little polar bears and your flannel board story. So spread your pieces out, and when you hear the color and see that color, put a polar bear on your snowdrift, okay? Polar bears are in the North Pole are mostly white, don't you know? That little white polar bear up there. You can put it anywhere on your snow patch. But sometimes there can be seen polar bears of bright green. Over there. Joining them are friendly fellows. Polar bears are sparkly yellow. Here we go. Blue ones come out to play. Here we have blue ones with pink ones during the day. If you're lucky, you will find polar bears of every kind. There's our beautiful iceberg with a rainbow of polar bears. Put that one off to the side. So we have another story, and then I'll talk about the art project that you'll find in your bag. And this is The Snow Bear, written by Miriam Moss. Let's see. In the silent forest is a clearing where soft snowflakes fall. But listen, there's padding and pouncing and a snowdrift shivers. A little white polar bear bursts into the clearing. He looks left and right, high and low for his mother. "Mother, where are you?" calls the little white bear. He waits and waits, but she does not come. "I will make a snow, mother," he whispers, "to keep me company while I wait." The little white bear sweeps snow into a mother shape. But listen, there's shuffling and swishing and a deep crunch of snow. Musk Ox shakes his shaggy coat. "Let me help," he says, and he heaves a heavy mound of snow with his strong shoulder. There's stirring and whirring in a soft snowy landing. Snow Goose smooths her fine feathers. "Let me help," she says, and she pats down the snow with her wide webbed feet. There's splittering and splashing coming from the icy lake. Moose nuzzles the little white cub with his velvet muzzle. "Let me help," he says, and he shovels more snow with his sweeping antlers. There's skidding and sliding and the sound of claws on ice. Fox switches her frisky whiskers. "Let me help," she says, and she shapes the feet with her quick curved claws. There's panting and pawing and a lot of tail wagging. Wolf sniffs the air with his long, sharp nose. "Let me help," he says, and he brushes in the fur mist and with his big, bushy tail. There's hopping and stomping and two long ears flopping, hair with stares with large liquid eyes. "Let me help," she says, and she draws the face with her neat, narrow paws. Bear, hare, and wolf, snow goose and moose, musk ox and fox finish the snow bear just as the sun sets and the world is washed gold. But listen. From the forest, their mothers call them home, all except for the little white bears. "Goodbye," he says sadly as they disappear into the dusk. "Thank you for your help." Darkness settles over the clearing. The little white cub snuggles up against the snow bear, wishing it were already morning. As he sleeps, warm winds blow from the south and soften the snow. Slowly, slowly, the snow bear melts into the green of the forest. But listen, As dawn breaks, who comes sniffing and searching through the trees? What do you think? Oh, who's that? In the clearing, a new day begins. A familiar scent awakens the little white bear. He blinks sleepily. It's you, he murmurs, moving closer to his mother's side. I knew you would find me. Another good polar bear story. So this week in your art project bag, you have, let's see, a canvas. Now, if it's covered in plastic, make sure you take that plastic off before you start painting. Looks like some polar bear parts. So you will need scissors or help from your grown-up to cut those parts out. And you also have pink, blue, and white paint, a glue stick, and of course your sponge paint. Now you can paint your canvas any way you want. You can make it plain blue, purple, anything. I did mine all three colors and added the white in it so it looks a little streaky because I thought that was more wintry. And cut out your polar bear pieces. If you want the 3D look so it pops up a little bit, with the spare pieces that you don't use, you can just roll them up into little cylinders like that and glue them in between the paws, or you can crinkle it up so his head pops up a little bit. So I put in between the two body pieces, his head and the top body pieces, and then in between his legs. So it looks like he pops off the wall a little bit. Now don't forget, on the back of you might have one that looks like that. You can put a title to your picture. Make sure your name goes on there and the date that you did that so you will remember and you can look back at this in days to come. The last thing you'll find in your bag this week is, of course, a little bibliography about polar bears. So if you would like to read or look at more polar bear books, your grown-up can go online and request these books, or just call us up and we'll put those aside for you, okay? And of course, you have some recipes. Let's see, polar bear Oreos. They look pretty yummy. And polar bear Rice Krispie treats. So if you are in the mood for something sweet and your grown-up has these ingredients, go ahead and give those a try. Let me know how they turn out. And if you'd like to do something fun outside with polar bears, you know, polar bears are big and they have lots of blubber and fat to keep them warm in the cold weather. So you could do a little experiment, but make sure it's okay with your grown-up. If you have petroleum jelly or Vaseline, cover your hand or even just a finger. And then if you want to go outside, you can put that in the snow and see how warm your hand stays, and it will be protected. Or you could try lard or any kind of grease. You could experiment and try different things and see which keeps you warmer. You don't even have to go outside. You can just do that and put it in cold water, and it will help your hands stay dry and warm. Oh, hello, Mr. Corky. Okay, so that's about it for the day. Where's my scarf? We're going to have our last scarf song, so go ahead and get your scarf. And I will put our scarf song on, if I can see it around Mr. Corky. Let's see. Excuse me. He does like coming out, doesn't he?
Scarves up and down and around.
Okay.
The scarves are softly flowing, left, right, left. The scarves are softly flowing, left, right, left. Up and down and around, up and down and around, up and down, up and down, up and down and around. The scarves are softly floating, release them up in the air. Catch! The scarves are softly floating, release them up in the air. Catch! Up and down and around, up them float to the ground. Release them up in the air. Watch them float to the ground. Sing it! Up and down and around. Up and down and around. Up and down, up and down, up and down and around. The scarves are softly flowing, left, right, left. The stars are softly flowing, left, right, left. Up and down and around, up and down and around. Up and down, up and down, up and down and around. The scarves are softly floating, release them up in the air. Catch! The scarves are softly floating, release them up in the air. Catch! Up and down and around, up and down and around. Up and down, up and down, up and down and around. Release them up in the air. Watch them float to the ground. Release them up in the air. Watch them float to the ground. Up and down and around. Up and down and around. Up and down, up and down, up and down and around.
Like a lion.
Up and down, up and down, up and down and around.
Well, that's it for this week, my little friends. Hopefully you can join me again next week, maybe with Corky too. We'll see. Until then, be safe. Bundle up if you go outside because it is cold and you want to be safe. And listen to your grown-ups because they love you. Until then, my little friends, take care and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.